All right, for more on some of the challenges facing local governments across the Bay Area and Northern California during these outages, we're joined here in studio by former FEMA coordinator Mark Nouveau. Mark, we appreciate you coming in on such an important day. From a public safety standpoint, what are your biggest concerns about these long-term, widespread power outages?
Easily said. We cannot continue to manage the 5th largest economy in the world this way. We just cannot do that. For instance, let me read to you. This is quoted from a researcher did a study in Johns Hopkins University. Quote, "Our results from this study indicate that power outages can immediately and severely harm human health." So it's not a matter of just turning out power and there's no impacts to that. We saw East Bay Mud had to spend $409,000 for 29 generators to be able to provide water. In Puerto Rico, the power outages created problems with the manufacturing of 10 of the 20 top used pharmaceuticals in the country. It wasn't because it didn't have power. It was because the power was out and it couldn't pump water for processing. So there are so many consequences that come when we say we're going to turn off power to 800,000 customers in California.
Do you think that this is in fact necessary?
Well, you're going to have to rule both ways, because people would say, well, if you didn't do it and something happened, but most wildfires are human inside. It's not from mechanical. And so the question becomes not so much should they do it, is are we going to continue to do this?
Yeah.
We know in the Netherlands, technology allows them, they call it self-healing. And what will happen is if there's a limb that hits a line, it will sever the power in that line within milliseconds. So there are ways to approach this. We would hope that PG&E would look into those.
So it seems as though the fact of whether this is necessary or not can be debated, but it does appear as though you're suggesting that there are other things that PG&E could be doing instead of this.
Absolutely. We've seen an agency that has stumbled in different, both San Bruno gas pipeline. The governor, when he came in, some of the first directions he took was to try and prevent and beef up resources for wildfires. Now, what he said to PG&E is, you're going to get a new board of directors. We'd like you to consider that you have somebody on that board that is a wildfire safety expert. They didn't do it. They have 5 new board of directors that are money managers. So there's got to be some, there's got to be some changes in how we do business.
And we know that PG&E is way behind schedule in terms of trimming the trees, trimming back vegetation along their power lines. If more of that work had already been done, do you think that that not as many people out there would have to have their power shut off?
I don't think that that effort would be enough to be able to prevent fires in California. It's a measure towards being able to reduce it. There's no question about that. But I think where we start to have the discussion is what's going to happen in the future. How do we move forward? Right. Now, PG&E's been proactive. New Wildfire Incident Command Center. They've hired resources. Matter of fact, one of my buddies just went to work for PG&E, who's a retired fire chief. So they're trying to take measures. But it seems like it's not the ground forces that are creating the problem, the troops that are out working. It's the decisions that are being made at the top of the organization that have to be changed, and they've got to cooperate with the governor.
There also seems to be a lot of, anger may be overstating it, but it does seem as though a lot of people are really upset about this. We heard from a woman earlier in Tom Bakar's piece saying, it's calm right now where I am. Why did it have to happen now? Why not wait until we know that the winds in fact are going to pick up? Do you think that that's a possibility to maybe limit the time frame of these outages? Well, I think the difficult part then is when you actually throw that switch to be able to have it to impact. And so they'd rather err on that side. There's no question about that. But we wrestled with this during Hurricane Sandy on Long Island when the power went out. That was the longest power outage in our country's history before Puerto Rico in an urbanized area. And what happened there for 7 days? People started to picket the headquarters of Long Island Power. The President of the United States went into the gasoline reserves to distribute that fuel onto Long Island. He wanted it in locations that were high visibility gas stations that had emergency generators. The reason for that was not only to provide fuel for the people on the island, but it was also to quell the unrest. So the challenge, when you start to turn off power, there are circumstances that are going to come as a result of that we don't necessarily calculate.
How concerned are you that all of these folks who are losing power here, potentially for days on end, are well enough prepared to deal with that kind of crisis?
Yeah, to your point, Alex, and you know, in the Paradise Fire, the people that lost their lives, they were senior citizens and functional needs for the majority. When we start to shut power down in California, that's the same group that's affected. They don't have resources, and those are the ones who have medical equipment that requires power, that don't have generators. So this decision does have impacts, hugely.
It certainly does. All right, Mark Neveau, always a pleasure. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate it.